This is the Meta Quest 3, and I'm here to tell you that even if you own the original Oculus Quest or the Meta Quest 2, the Meta Quest 3 is worth buying right now. Let's find out why. I'm going to say something controversial here. I don't actually like the Meta Quest 2 all that much. When they announced it, Meta promised that this would be a generational upgrade from the original Oculus Quest. It would be more affordable, lighter weight, better screens, and overall better experience. And a lot of that turned out not to be true. For one, the way Meta managed to make this more affordable and lighter was by switching to a really garbage cloth strap that was not comfortable to use at all. So the very first thing you needed to do was buy the Elite strap, which is heavier, but much more comfortable and easy to adjust. Unfortunately, that means you're back up to the same price that the original Oculus Quest was, and just about the same weight too. I also didn't like the new screen and lenses, in part because you lost OLED, and that makes for worse blacks, but also because you no longer could use a slide mechanism to adjust how far the lenses are in front of your pupils for a better visual experience. You have to reach in and manually adjust it between one of three settings that may not even fit your eyes correctly. That wasn't great. So why do I say you should buy the Meta Quest 3? Well, in almost every way, it improved on the Meta Quest 2, and it makes it a better device. Once again, you have a wheel to adjust your lenses so they are in front of your eyes. And you have a lot more options for that since it's a sliding wheel and not a three-piece mechanism. You still don't have OLED, and I'm kind of sad about that, but the screens overall are better than the Meta Quest 2. But the big game changer for the Meta Quest 3 comes up front. At the front, you have a depth sensor and two color cameras. The Oculus Quest and the Meta Quest changed the game in VR by letting you set up virtual boundaries. With other VR systems, you had to buy a boundary system and place them around your room. It was an extra expense. And if you're in an apartment or a rented home, you may not be able to install black boxes in the wall. That just wasn't necessarily with the Oculus Quest. You could create a virtual guardian to keep yourself away from the walls. It's still a bit of a pain though, because you have to take your controller and draw the guardian, and it frequently forgets where you're at, and you have to do all that work again. Not terrible, but kind of annoying. With this depth sensor, that's no longer a thing you have to do. You can look around the room and your Meta Quest 3 will automatically find your barriers, walls, and even furniture and draw a 3D guardian for you. And you can go ahead and adjust that guardian if you don't like it. And even better, the Meta Quest 3 does a better job of remembering where your guardian is and will even remember when you have a guardian in more than one room. Now, the Meta Quest 2 promised to do that, but I never found it to be consistent. The Meta Quest 2 and its predecessor relied on infrared cameras to get a view of the world around you. And the Meta Quest 2 started doing mixed reality applications by showing you what those infrared cameras can see. But that always ends up being a black and white view, and it wasn't perfect. And it didn't translate well to games either, or productivity apps. If you wanted to take a screenshot of what you could see inside your Meta Quest, anything coming from the infrared cameras was just blanked out. The Meta Quest 3 has color cameras, and so now it can give you a view of the world around you that looks pretty close to real life. They're not quite right. There's some weird shifting and jumping that kind of breaks the illusion sometimes, but it is pretty darn close to mixed reality. Do you remember those old Microsoft HoloLens demonstrations that would show the world around you and then these big digital displays that turned out not to be true because the field of view was pretty small? You actually get really close to that experience with this. You can have the Oculus Quest menu system open up in the middle of your living room, and to you, it looks like you have a hologram menu system floating in the middle of your room. It makes it viable to walk around your house too, since you get an accurate and true view of everything going on. One other difference between the Meta Quest 3 and the Meta Quest 2 is the controllers. You'll notice that the Meta Quest 3 controller does not have the giant ring around the edges like the Meta Quest 2 and the original Oculus Quest. This ring is a bunch of infrared lights that the Meta Quest would use to track your controller in real time to get a good idea of where you're at. But as Meta has gotten better at hand tracking, they've taken those same improvements and added it to controller tracking. And they say they just don't need the ring anymore to keep track of your controllers. That so far seems to be mostly true. There was a slight problem with fast-moving games. The good news is Meta has already released an update to take care of that issue, and I haven't seen the issue since. So you get a lighter, more comfortable controller without the giant rings, and it still seems to be just about as accurate. And surprisingly, hand tracking is better than ever. It's getting to the point where maybe you don't need the controllers as much. Now, mixed reality is one of the big new benefits of the Meta Quest 3. There aren't that many games and apps that take advantage of it. The Meta Quest 3 will be popular enough that developers will support the new mixed reality capabilities. And even if they don't, it's still an excellent virtual reality system. The new auto boundary is great. The new controllers are fantastic. The screens are improved over the Meta Quest 2, though I still miss the OLED of the original Oculus Quest. Meta, please bring that back. Overall, it's a better system. It is a more expensive system. While they dropped the price with the Meta Quest 2, they brought it right back up with the Meta Quest 3 just because of all the new features and capabilities. But I can't recommend the more affordable option. It's 128 gigs for $499, and I can tell you from personal experience that is not enough room, especially if you want multiple profiles. If you have multiple profiles, it essentially duplicates every game that you play on both profiles, and you run out of room really fast. Go ahead and spend the $649 for the 512 gigabyte model. That is a lot of money, I know, but you can't add on storage after the fact. So you're going to want as much space as you possibly can get. And I do recommend the Elite strap as well, again, bringing up the price. This is far more expensive than what the Meta Quest 2 was, but it is also a far better system than the Meta Quest 2. I actually like this device. I hated the Meta Quest 2. It bugged me how many compromises they made to bring the price down. In this case, they didn't compromise and it brought the price up, but you end up with a better device for it. Hey, thanks for watching this review. If you enjoyed it, feel free to give this video a like and the channel a subscription. Until next time.